When I was alive, I was just a penniless bum. After death, I somehow ended up in massive debt again. 6 years after leaving this world, I returned to the land of the living, all because I owed a huge debt to the underworld court. I had no father, no mother, I was an orphan, so I placed all my hopes on my good brother. But just as I stepped into his house, a sudden row of bullet comments appeared before my eyes. They read, "Disgusting. Here comes another angsty story where the male lead is in impotent rage. The female lead cheated in marriage. Even their son doesn't want to acknowledge him as a father. Bet he's been having suicidal thoughts for a while." Outside the door, no one dared to enter, all afraid to catch his bad luck. Wait a second. Who just kicked open the male lead's door and swaggered right in? That's right, it was yours truly. I watched as my brother climbed onto the table, looped a rope around his neck, and prepared to hang himself. I immediately grabbed the rolling-eyed fool and shouted excitedly, playing on the swing without calling me. "Brother, that's not fair." I yanked him down and persuaded, "I know you're in a rush, but don't die just yet. I still have debts with the underworld court that I need you to help pay off." Hearing this, my brother stopped feeling depressed, stopped trying to kill himself, and instead, he started chasing me, trying to kill me. He roared angrily, "You bastard. When I died, you didn't even appear in my dreams to see me, but now that you've got debts, I'm the first person you think of." The bullet comments exploded again. What a brotherhood, like a home invasion. Chapter 1. When I kicked open the master bedroom door of my brother David's luxurious mansion. He was in the middle of hanging himself. Everyone who saw the scene froze in shock, until I dragged him down and pointed at his nose, scolding, "David, playing on the swing without calling me, huh?" My brother was utterly confused. The servants outside the door were stunned. The bullet comments on the screen filled up with question marks. Some comments read, "Bro, maybe you should take a second look at what the male lead is actually doing. He's trying to commit suicide, and you're reminiscing about childhood. Ha ha ha. Lying with your eyes wide open and not even including me. David's face turned red, his eyes blank. The despair that had consumed him now mixed with shock and helplessness. In my memory, he was often foolish and childish, always laughing around, never serious. Yet when facing hardship, he was resilient, strong, and full of bright hopes for the future. He used to say, "George, when I marry Willow one day, you must be there." But now, looking at his eyes dulled by despair, his face lifeless and hopeless, it felt like he was from another world. David's frail frame looked like it could shatter at a touch. I had never seen him so miserable. A sudden, inexplicable sting pierced my chest. 6 years had passed, and when I appeared before him again, he was nearly fainting. He stared at me in a daze, as if his mind was buffering. Meanwhile, I brightened up, seized the chance, and yanked his wrist. "Brother, you know I've never been good at appraising watches, except for Patek Philippe, of course." Looking at my empty wrist, I was insanely jealous. Shamelessly, I said, "Good brothers share blessings. Come on, let me try what it feels like to wear this thing." The servants crowding outside widened their eyes, as if they'd just heard the funniest joke. Some couldn't stand my nonsense and tried to stop me. "Who brought you here? Don't you know any manners? $1 million watch, and you think he'd just give it to you?" But the next second, my brother roughly wiped his face, took off the watch in front of everyone, and handed it to me. His voice was hoarse, low, and trembling with excitement as he said, "We're brothers, what else is there to say? If you'd asked earlier, I would have bought another just to give you." The servants exchanged glances, their eyeballs nearly popping out. He's actually giving it to him. Chapter 2. Later, the servants dispersed. I looked at the empty doorway, then dragged the door back to barely cover the room. I didn't bother with whatever mess the situation had turned into. Sneaking my hand into my pocket, I pulled out a debt note and handed it to David, my tone groveling as I grinned. "Brother, guess what good stuff I brought back for you after messing around in the underworld court?" David was still gloomy, but at least he no longer thought of suicide. Once I spread open my enormous debt note, he reverted to that same fool from our school days, no longer staring blankly at the ceiling, no longer brooding endlessly about the meaning of life. He picked up a fruit knife and chased me around trying to slash me. When he shouted my name, his voice wasn't weak anymore. It was so loud it scared the birds right off the trees in the garden. The servants rushed back after hearing the commotion, only to see this. David was waving a fruit knife, chasing me all over the room. He roared furiously, "George, fuck you. You never even came to see me in my dreams after you died. But the moment you're in debt, you come running to me. Did I owe you in a past life? Watch me cut you down. No one's living today." I flailed, raising my hands and running for my life, shouting, "Goofball, goofball, don't do this. Let me explain." The butler, who arrived late and missed the earlier chaos, now silently lifted his phone at the sight of this disaster and made a call. "Hello, miss. You probably won't believe this, But Mr. Chan, who used to be so weak he could barely walk, is now chasing someone with a knife. Chapter 3. David Chan didn't agree to help me pay off my debts. Instead, unkindly, he told me to work them off in his villa, 10,000 per hour. So, miserably, I started doing servant work, because his mental state was unstable. He often couldn't eat, and once again, when the dishes were carried back to the kitchen untouched, everyone felt defeated. Even the head chef began to doubt his own skills. I glanced at the bullet comments. They read, "The male lead is practically developing anorexia. This is too tragic. Ever since his parents went bankrupt and jumped off a building years ago, he's been left all alone. And as if that weren't enough, his wife cheated, and his son treats him like a traitor. Well, what can you expect? He's the male lead of an angsty story." Later, the female lead morally blackmails him to donate a kidney to the male supporting role. He nearly dies on the operating table. And that's when the regret and self-torment arc for the female lead begins. Looking forward to it. I entered the kitchen, and my knife slammed onto the cutting board, chopping vegetables, as if I were chopping apart a toxic woman. I cooked a bowl of noodles and proudly served it to David. He had no appetite. He turned his head away, refusing to eat. Even if I tried to force feed him, it was useless. He bluntly said, "Forget it. Just looking at food makes me want to throw up." "Don't bother, brother." I shrugged, picked up the chopsticks, grabbed a piece of beef, and in a high-pitched voice said, "Here comes the airplane." David's hair stood on end. "Damn it, are you sick? Don't give me that stupid crap. We're grown men." "Fine, I'll eat." "Okay." And then, David ate faster than a starving dog. The bullet comments went wild with laughter. "Is this George a new character? He's pure comedy. I can't stop laughing. He really knows how to deal with the male lead. Has no one noticed that the male lead is actually starting to recover? George keeps calling him brother. What's their relationship anyway? Never heard of this guy before." Chapter 4. These days, I stayed by David's side, and he rarely lost control anymore. During my time in the underworld court, I learned everything about his past 10 years. I knew how every night he was haunted by nightmares, his parents' desperate leap off a building replaying endlessly. I knew how he endured humiliation, being openly shamed by the female lead's lover. His mental state had deteriorated more and more. He had no motivation for anything, and his wife, Willow, not only ignored him, but also joined her lover in forcing him, humiliating him, and even demanding that David kneel and apologize to them. It was as if he had lost himself, every step pushed by others, a puppet without emotions. Today, I dragged David to play games with me all morning. The bullet comments sighed, "Oh my God, that's what brothers are for. A brother can play games with you. Women only lower your win rate." Wait. Wasn't this part of the plot where the male lead's foolish son gets brought back by his grandparents? George, don't let Mario see the male lead. He despises his father. Imagine hating your own dad like that. Before the bullet comments even finished, two well-dressed old folks entered the room, holding a child's hand. At this moment, David and I were immersed in a heated gaming session, but somehow, that very scene irritated his son Mario. He angrily smashed his limited edition car model to the ground, stormed up to us, and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Get out. What right do you have to play on my computer?" As Mario began shoving David's leg with all his strength. David's smile froze on his face. He frowned and looked at Mario, saying, "Mario, you can't talk like that, understand?" The bullet comments wailed, "Sigh. After all, he's still his biological son." Other than his son, the male lead only has a gravely ill grandfather left. The male lead truly wants to be close to his son. Seriously, is there no one who can handle this brat Mario? So rude. Makes me want to jump into the story and spank him raw. I raised my brows at this little kid, standing with hands on his hips, puffed up in anger. Sure enough, he looked a lot like David. Mario snorted arrogantly, certain David would never lay a hand on him. With a smug, "What can you do to me?" look. The next second, I sneered coldly, grabbed him up with full strength, and smack spanked his butt. From afar, Mario's grandparents, who had been indifferent till now, suddenly panicked. They rushed forward on their canes, shouting, "Where did this madman come from? Put him down, put him down." Mario howled louder and louder, crying miserably. Between sobs he choked out, "Grandpa, Grandma, my butt hurts. He hit me. Save me. Hurry." Instead of stopping, I hit him harder. Hearing his cries only made me more excited. I laughed and said, "Brat, since your dad won't discipline you, then I, your godfather, will give you a proper lesson today." When I finally tired, Mario's grandparents snatched him away, screaming, "Oh my heavens, are you servants deaf in this villa? Security, where is security?" The three of them cried together in a heap. The bullet comments exploded. "Holy shit, bro, you really did it, you're my hero." "Wait a sec, Why does the male lead look like he's about to laugh himself to death watching his son get spanked? He looks pleased. Oh wow, the male lead actually laughed, no holding back. Loud and hearty, like he's about to clap his hands in approval. Ha ha ha. The servants came charging in with spatulas and knives, but when they realized the madman the old couple was pointing at was me, they froze in place, dumbfounded. Mario wiped his tears, his face flushed from crying, then stomped his foot angrily and rushed at me to hit me. His grandparents grabbed at my clothes too, sensing things getting out of hand. David pushed the three of them back with his arms. The servants jumped in to break up the chaos. The scene descended into complete disorder. Just then, Mario suddenly swung his fist at me, but before he could touch me, I collapsed dramatically onto the floor, convulsing in fake spasms, shouting, "Oh heavens! This is outrageous! Assault! Assault!" Mario hit me. Kids from the sunflower class shouldn't play with him anymore. Mario blinked his big eyes in panic, quickly waving his hands, stammering desperately, "You're lying. You're framing me. I didn't touch you. I didn't." But the next second, David, usually so composed, grabbed Mario by the collar, yanked him close, and spanked him hard. Mario wailed again at the top of his lungs. His grandparents couldn't believe their eyes. They thought David had gone insane, shouting furiously, "David, stop at once. Beast, you beast, have you lost your mind?" Even the servants tried to intervene. "Sir, please, let go of young master. He's just a child, why lower yourself to this?" David ignored them. His voice was icy. "Mario, didn't I tell you never to raise your hand against others? Now, what should you be saying?" Mario was stunned, crying and begging, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I won't do it again. Please stop." The servants stopped trying to pull them apart. The grandparents also fell silent. Instead, everyone watched David discipline his son. David's voice thundered, "Sorry to who? Answer me." I leaned in with a creepy grin and said, "To your godfather." Mario struggled desperately. Seeing my smug face, his cheeks flushed crimson, snot and tears flying everywhere. He screamed, "I don't want to call this bad man godfather. I don't want to." David raised his hand again. Mario broke. He stopped crying, forced a grin, and said, "Sorry, godfather, I was wrong." Satisfied, I nodded. The bullet comments erupted like fireworks. No way, before this, the male lead had basically given up on disciplining the kid, too tired to scold or spank him anymore. And now, with just a small trick from George, the male lead has returned to his old ways. This is too satisfying, bro. From your perspective this is a pure power fantasy. I'll follow you forever. George. The male lead basically said, "If you touch my brother, I'll destroy your paradise. Even my own son won't be spared." Mario's grandparents were so furious they almost fainted. With trembling hands, they dialed Willow's number. "Hurry back. Your pathetic husband has lost it again." Chapter 5. Willow and Makoto took the earliest flight back. A full 10 hours, their butts nearly rotting from sitting. "Sit to death, you bastard." When they arrived home, the living room was in complete chaos. The bullet comments fretted. The male lead has a weakness, otherwise he wouldn't have tolerated so much for so long. His grandfather still relies on the Liu family's connections for treatment. What now? The male lead just spanked his kid and kicked his in-laws. Just imagining the in-laws waiting until midnight without showering, just to preserve the footprint marks on their clothes for evidence, makes me laugh. Makoto's here too. What's the meaning of this? Definitely intentional. I raised my brows at Willow's face, which looked like she'd just swallowed shit, and almost burst out laughing. Makoto was the first to speak, wrapping an arm around Willow's shoulder. He chuckled. "David, what are you doing? I was having such a great time traveling with Willow, and then you pull this stunt. Ruined the whole mood. I'd say you did it on purpose." "Huh?" Egged on, Willow grew even angrier, but when she lifted her gaze toward David, she froze in shock. David was no longer gaunt and skeletal. He now looked well-fed, balanced, and full of energy. That only made her angrier. While she was gone, David seemed almost carefree. She snorted coldly and said, "David, you disgust me. I told you, whatever happens to you, your grandfather will suffer the consequences too." Her icy voice stabbed like a blade straight into David's heart. He stiffened instantly, blurting in a panicked, defensive rush, "I didn't. I suddenly cut in. Whose mouth stinks like that? Willow, did you rush over here without brushing your teeth?" Caught off guard, Willow finally noticed the extra person in the room. Her mother pointed at me, shouting, "That's him, that bastard. He's the one who helped your husband beat us." I tilted my face up with a bright grin, but when she saw me clearly, Willow froze in place. Her body stiffened, and her voice trembled as she stammered, "You, George, but weren't you already dead?" She didn't finish the last word. Back then, when she received the news of my death, David had been devastated, so much so that he crashed his car on the way home. Even with a fractured leg, he stubbornly insisted on attending my funeral, and so, Willow had accompanied him. She had seen my photo on the funeral altar with her own eyes. Chapter 6. The standoff dragged on until Makoto suddenly cut in with a smile. Mario, you're being naughty. Why didn't you call me Dad today? Look, Dad brought you a toy. Hearing his name, Mario lifted his little face excitedly and threw himself into Willow and Makoto's arms. He was about to speak, but then noticed David and me staring right at him. Especially me. I deliberately scratched my neck. Mario flinched in fright, clamped his mouth shut, and shrank into Willow's embrace. Seeing me here, an unwelcome presence. Willow's expression twisted with disgust. She snapped, pointing at the door. I don't care if you're human or ghost, get out of my house. David suddenly stood up from the sofa, his back straight, his gaze sharp. Word by word, he declared, Willow, this is my house. The one who should get out is you. The bullet comments lit up, remarkably clear-headed this time. The female lead is shameless. This house was fully bought by the male lead. It's one thing that her parents freeload here, but since when did this become her house? Not only that, she often lets Makoto come here just to discuss the male lead. Can we swap out the female lead already? What the male lead doesn't know is that the doctor who pulled his grandfather back from the brink wasn't helping because of the Liu family's influence at all. The female lead has been hiding this, afraid the male lead would no longer let her manipulate him. Wait a sec, now that George has shown up, it all makes sense. That doctor took everything on because of his high school crush, didn't he? And if I'm not mistaken, that crush was George, the male lead's close friend. Holy crap, I think that's actually true. What? Me? Someone had a crush on me. Why didn't you wait until I was dead to tell me? No, wait, it seems you really did wait until I was dead to say it. Chapter 7. Willow's face flushed scarlet, her thin lips pressed into a line as she spat words through clenched teeth. David, you're telling me to get out? Mario's grandmother, seeing the situation, immediately stepped forward to defend her daughter. Oh heavens, you bastard. Back then, when we asked you to sell this house, get married, and then buy another, you refused. We knew exactly what you were scheming. But Willow, that lovesick fool, wouldn't listen to us. Even so, she still married you. She trusted you so much, and this is how you repay her. Shame on you. Mario's grandfather barked angrily as well. That's right, David. When your family went bankrupt, we urged Willow to divorce you, but she refused. You should know gratitude. Besides Willow, who else would ever marry a lunatic like you? At last, I understood why David had gone insane. In fact, David really was being driven mad all over again. He grabbed the ashtray from the table and hurled it violently at the elderly couple, his eyes burning with hatred. The ashtray missed, landing on the ground with a dull thud. Thankfully, it was sturdy and didn't break, but the old couple, given their age, were badly frightened. Seeing this, Willow flew into a rage. Oh, so now you want to hit people? Fine, we'll have you committed to a mental hospital right away. Mario's little face turned pale. He pleaded desperately. No, Mom, please don't. Willow froze. She hadn't expected Mario to side with his father at such a critical moment. She opened her mouth. Mario, how could you? But her words were cut off by the crisp sound of a slap. The air went dead silent. My eardrums rang from the impact. Willow's cheek visibly swelled within moments. That slap had carried every ounce of David's strength. As Willow lunged to grab David in fury, I quickly pulled them apart and said bluntly to her, if you can't take it, then divorce him. That single sentence set off alarms in everyone's hearts, especially Willow, who shouted, are you crazy, George? Asked David, would he ever divorce me? Even David was stunned, because he knew exactly where Willow's bottom line lay. If they divorced, his grandfather would surely be abandoned. I gave him a look. His emotions were unstable, but even so, he chose to trust me without hesitation. He frowned and said, Willow, not a moment has gone by when I haven't wanted to divorce you. So, let's divorce. Willow's pupils shook violently. She stared at David's resolute expression in disbelief, biting her lip as she stammered, what did you just say? The bullet comments went wild with excitement. Holy shit, George comes through again, steady as ever. The male lead is finally awake. If not for hate, how could the distance from the villa to the Civil Affairs Bureau feel so short? George jumps in and the male lead instantly follows. He must really trust our George. What a touching brotherhood. Chapter 8. David called the security guards to throw Willow's family out. The villa went quiet, and the servants pretended nothing had happened as they returned to their posts. I watched as David silently walked upstairs back to his room. His desolate back made the bullet comments overflow with sympathy. The bullet comments read, the male lead needs to process this by himself now. He definitely wants to be alone. Another comment followed. No wonder this is a tragedy novel. After so many years, all these repeated blows have already crushed the male lead's mind. He must be completely exhausted. And then, The servants are so sensible not to disturb him. That's great. Wait a second. Why is George going upstairs again? Did he just kick open the male lead's door and walk in like he owns the place? I looked at David, who was buried under his blanket in silent sorrow. My chatter became endless, but none of it matched the atmosphere. I suddenly yanked his blanket away and cheerfully said, "Bro, you've been crying, huh?" Then I asked, "Bro, you've got several cars, right? Mind lending me one to drive?" David was still shedding tears, yet somehow managed to reply, "Take your pick, the keys are in the first drawer." And then, once again, he drowned in his own world of sadness. I muttered an "oh," grabbed a car key, and kept rambling. "Hey, remember back in high school, there was a girl who was really close to me. Someone had a crush on me." He was sighing 1 second, then wide-eyed the next. He asked, Who? How come I never knew?" And then, went right back to being sad. I asked again, "Can I try on a few of the watches in your cabinet?" He nodded. "Go ahead. That row in the back are all limited editions." So I picked 20 watches from the stand, strapped 10 on each arm, and stood in front of the mirror comparing them. Tried them all, but none felt right. What a pair of oddballs we were. One showing off in front of the mirror, the other drowning in sorrow. The servants passing by the door were stunned at the scene. David was unstable during this time, unable to control himself. If provoked, he might truly do something extreme. So the servants were about to persuade me to properly comfort David. But unexpectedly, I nudged David, stretching out both arms stacked with watches. "Hey, which one suits me better? I feel like something's missing. Doesn't look right." David instantly snapped out of it. He sat up straight, frowned in thought for a moment, and then seriously commented, "I think all of these are too flashy. They lack a restrained dominance and can't bring out your aura." The servants nearly fainted. I added, "Man, you're really careless. These watches don't match the cars at all. How long has it been since you bought new ones?" David seemed to forget his sadness. He stared at the cabinet full of luxury watches, fell into thought, and then nodded in agreement. "You're right. I'll restock this afternoon." The bullet comments were dumbfounded. What is this? What a brotherhood. Like a home invasion. I'm dying of laughter. I've never seen anyone comfort like this. Honestly, George has the male lead completely under control. Another one said, "Who installed surveillance cameras in my house? This is exactly how I am with my bro." Back when he was heartbroken, I still wanted to chase my goddess, and he'd give me advice while crying his eyes out. Ha ha ha. Chapter 9. David and I went to the hospital where his grandfather was staying. Almost everything I knew from the bullet comments, I told him, but I deliberately concealed the fact that I could see the bullet comments. When David learned that his grandfather's treatment had nothing to do with Willow, he completely let go of his burden and made up his mind to divorce her. In these days, however, Willow seemed to be doing it on purpose, while refusing to agree to the divorce. She kept posting intimate photos with Makoto on WeChat. Her intention was obvious, but David no longer cared. He even directly sent the divorce papers and the lawyer's letter over, making Willow furious. Although the Chan family had gone bankrupt, the savings left behind were more than enough for David to live comfortably for a lifetime. He wasn't short of money, but since there was going to be a divorce lawsuit, he had to point out Willow's cheating during the marriage, making her pay the price. A series of chat logs and video evidence were submitted to the court, so divorce was only a matter of time. When we arrived at the hospital, I looked at the frail, aging figure lying in bed, and my heart ached. Back in high school, David's grandfather would often personally cook rich meals to host me, but now, tormented by illness, he lay unconscious in the hospital. The door of the ward opened, and a figure in white walked in. With just the briefest glance, I already recognized her. Damn. Speaking of which, back in high school I was a reckless troublemaker, idolizing the so-called 4 campus kings, thinking they were the coolest. I even went to the school gate trying to extort younger students for 2 yuan as protection money, because I didn't look intimidating enough. Almost nobody took me seriously. I was so mad I nearly knelt down begging, and still couldn't collect a cent, until one day, a girl with delicate features, wearing glasses as if to hide her appearance, came to me. She was reserved, almost reclusive, and spoke in a low voice. She pulled 5 yuan out of her pocket and asked, "Can you protect me?" That feeling of being trusted was incredible. I was so moved I almost kowtowed to her. I patted my chest and swore to give her all the sense of security she needed. Later I learned her name was Anna. Because she was too smart and too pretty, she became the target of envy and bullying. I thought the little self-defense tricks I'd learned from my grandpa would be enough to scare away her bullies. But one day, I passed by an alley and saw a group of people beating Anna up. My first instinct was to grab her and run for our lives. So many people, who could fight them all? Anna looked at me, pulling her along as we ran desperately fast. Her long-suffering, sorrowful face suddenly lit up with a genuine smile. I thought she'd been beaten silly. Later she told me, She wasn't smiling because of that, she smiled because I ran so fast her shoes flew off. It was the middle of summer, and she ran the whole way barefoot. I was speechless. So how was it resolved in the end? Of course, my grandpa, back when he was still alive, stepped in, and with a few swift moves took care of everyone. I never knew who my parents were. Neighbors said their relationship fell apart, but they were forced to have me when I was 1 month old. They abandoned me at the orphanage door and disappeared completely. It was my grandpa who found me in time and gave me a home. You could say there were only two most important people in my life. One was my grandpa, the other was David. My grandpa raised me, while David was the light in my student days, when no one accepted me because of my background. My grandpa especially loved reading romance novels. When he saw me dragging a girl and running like crazy without letting go, he thought I was dating early and wanted to meet her parents. So open-mindedly, he invited Anna into the house to sit. I still can't forget what he said. "You're the first girl George has ever brought home." Anna, usually so quiet, surprisingly responded this time. She asked, "Then who was the first boy?" Without hesitation, my grandpa answered, "Of course, that rascal David." Chapter 10. After that night, Anna and I had no more interactions. That evening, Anna stayed for dinner because my grandpa insisted. During the meal, I slipped up and mentioned the whole protection money incident. My grandpa almost tied me up to the rafters to whip me. He even took my 10 yuan allowance and gave it to Anna as an apology. Anna refused, but he insisted she take it. I watched from the side, my heart breaking into pieces. It was too embarrassing. Plus, back then I was already in my senior year of high school, so I never saw Anna again afterward. But when the bullet comments saw Anna now, they went absolutely crazy, spamming the screen. Anna's crush on George is confirmed. Just look at her eyes, practically melting when she looks at him. Oh my God. What kind of shocking drama is this? No way. I swear Anna is about to faint. She secretly attended George's funeral, and now suddenly, here he is, alive. Another bullet comment read, in the original plot, there was a part describing how Anna would often burn paper offerings. So, was she burning them for George? So that's how it was. No wonder there were always anonymous donations appearing in my Underworld court account. I tried to cover it up, thinking it was best not to let too many people know I had suddenly come back to life. But Anna suddenly stepped forward, wanting to talk to me. Too bad I was sly and slippery, never giving her the chance to get close. David looked at me like I was an idiot. Anna said, "You are." She had barely begun speaking when I cunningly slipped away. If she knew her long-dead crush had suddenly resurrected, she'd probably faint on the spot. In the hospital corridor, a group of people seemed to be quarreling. The most obvious was a sharp, shrill voice of a slightly plump woman. "I don't care. Your son not only has to apologize to my daughter, you also have to pay me money. Otherwise you're not leaving." My gaze shifted to the two small figures surrounded by adults. From the back of one little head, I instantly recognized Mario. The man in a suit seemed to be the butler who had been kicked out earlier. Since he was employed by the Liu family, naturally he had returned to them. He was holding a phone, saying something to the person on the other end. Afterward, he nodded respectfully and patted Mario's shoulder. "Young master, your mother says boys shouldn't hold grudges against girls. If you apologize, this will be over." Mario's already fragile emotions completely collapsed. His little face turned beet red, his throat hoarse from arguing. Unable to get words out properly, he shouted angrily, "I don't want to. I didn't do anything wrong. It was her. She said I don't have a dad. I do have a dad. Mom told me if I call someone else dad, my real dad will come back. But mom lied. And dad hates me even more now. I hate mom. I hate uncle. I want my dad. I hate all of you." The little girl opposite him grew even more smug. She shrieked mockingly, "Nobody wants you. Nobody will play with you. Your dad doesn't want you. And your mom doesn't like you either. I'll have my mom send you to the orphanage." The girl's mother didn't correct her at all. Instead, she righteously declared, "I don't care who you are, or what kind of young master, useless." He hit my daughter and hurt her hands. My daughter's hands are for playing piano, for becoming an influencer. People like you could never afford to pay for that. Kneel down and apologize to my daughter. Mario couldn't take it anymore and lunged forward to fight. I grabbed him by the collar and yanked him back. When he saw me, his pupils trembled, and his little face froze in shock. I quickly covered his mouth, signaling him to stay silent. The butler watched the scene and faithfully reported over the phone to Willow. "Miss, there's been an unexpected situation here." I snatched the phone out of his hand, finally finding a place to vent all my rage. I exploded. "Willow, fuck you. Are you even human? Teaching your son this kind of twisted crap? Since when does right or wrong depend on gender? You're a useless wife and an even worse mother. I think you'd make a better dog. What kind of mother lets her kid be bullied like this? Pathetic. You'd better die in someone else's bed." Fuming, I hung up and smashed the butler's phone in anger. The air went dead silent. Then I muttered, Anyway, David will pay for the phone. As soon as Willow heard me cursing nonstop, she got so angry on the other end that she smashed her phone. Still fuming, she picked it up again, just about to curse me back, only to realize I had already hung up. According to the bullet comments, on her end she was now furiously smashing luxury goods. The woman in front of me sneered and said, "Who are you, the boy's father? Didn't your kid get any upbringing? My daughter just said a few words to him, and he dared to push her. Look at her finger, it's injured. Do you know this is attempted murder? If we hadn't rushed to the hospital, the consequences would have been unimaginable." I glanced at the girl's finger and sighed. True, if you had gotten here any later, the wound would have healed on its own. A worthy opponent, we started hurling insults back and forth. In the end, our foreheads pressed against each other like two bulls locking horns. She said, "Apologize to my daughter." I said, "Apologize to my godson." She said, "Never. I'll make you furious." I imitated her shameless manner, even more masterfully than she did. Laughing and cursing, I launched into a magic duel. "Oh never. I'll make you furious. 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 And your daughter also laid hands on my godson. My godson's gonna be a future CEO. Can you afford the damages then?" The tense atmosphere in the bullet comments instantly collapsed under my antics. The bullet comments went silent. Then one read, "Remember this, when it comes to shamelessness, George God has never lost." The woman, fuming, shoved me aside and tried to drag Mario to the police station. The next second, a strong hand seized her. Bullet comments lit up. With a thunderous crash, the male lead makes his dazzling entrance. Why do I suddenly hear BGM in my head? It's him. The male lead, carrying his speaker, has arrived. The comments were joking, but David was deadly serious. He asked coldly, "What are you planning to do to my son? Call the police." He raised his phone. "This is the footage I just pulled. It shows your daughter insulting him first, then making the first move. If we go to the police, you know what the outcome will be." I had messaged David beforehand to have him pull the surveillance video. His speed impressed me. What I didn't expect was that the usually stubborn Mario, who never admitted fault, suddenly burst into tears. Choking on sobs, he clung to David and stammered an apology. "I'm sorry, Dad. I missed you so much. You're my favorite dad. I'll never lie again. I'm sorry, really sorry." David was visibly moved by the scene but kept his emotions in check. He turned to the now flustered woman and asked, "So, still want money? Still demanding an apology? The one who should apologize is your daughter." Knowing she was in the wrong, her daughter also started crying. I chimed in, "Yeah, if she doesn't apologize, we'll just have to send her straight to the police officers." He. The little girl, terrified, hurriedly said, I'm sorry, I'll never say that again." David patted Mario on the back. Fortunately, the injuries were minor. The other side covered medical fees and compensation for emotional distress, and the matter came to an end. After they left, Mario eventually stopped crying, wiping his tears with his little hands. He turned to me and apologized again. "I'm sorry, Godfather. I thought you wanted to steal my dad to be your dad." I was speechless. I pinched his cheeks and said, "Your godfather is always magnanimous." The butler beside us spoke up. "Excuse me, sir." He held up the shattered phone. "Your friend just smashed my phone. He said you would reimburse me." David's eyes looked like he was about to strangle me on the spot. Chapter 11. We left the hospital, but Anna chased after us. At the entrance, a red Ferrari pulled up, and Willow stepped out of the car. Anna called my name. I pretended not to hear and kept walking forward, but she suddenly grabbed my sleeve and said, "George, I know it's you. Other than you, I've never seen anyone run that fast." I was speechless, exposed. Willow suddenly walked up to David, looking somewhat haggard, and said, "David, I don't want a divorce. If I admit I was wrong, will you forgive me?" David mercilessly turned away and left, feeling humiliated. Willow began venting her anger on Mario. She yanked at him and snapped, "Not going home. Stirring up trouble outside again. What use are you at all?" David strode forward, shoved her away, and warned coldly, "Willow, he's my son. From now on, he stays with me. Get lost. Understood?" Anna immediately stepped in to strike another blow. "Miss Liu, we meet again. Did you tell Mr. Chan what I mentioned last time, that his grandfather is recovering well and may soon be transferred to another hospital?" David froze. "Transferred?" Anna smiled. "Yes, Mr. Chan's grandfather is doing much better. He can be moved to City C for further treatment. He might even wake up." Willow said nothing. She had deliberately kept it from him, so that David wouldn't leave. David's voice grew colder. Word by word, he spat out, "Willow, fuck you." I followed David as we walked away. Anna still hadn't managed to say a single full sentence to me. Chapter 12. I knew Anna had helped us a lot. David said he would pay her a huge sum in gratitude. In these days, his mental state had improved greatly. He was gradually regaining the spirit he once had. The reconciliation messages Willow sent him every day, he ignored them all. The court ruled in our favor, and most of Willow's property was transferred into David's name. Not only that, David also exposed the Liu family's corruption, how they had siphoned money from the public and secretly funneled it into shady dealings. Willow's life was essentially over. The company was seized. Crowds of angry citizens gathered outside the Liu family's building. Her parents were beaten half to death and hospitalized. Even Makoto was exposed for his past school bullying, and now he was like a rat on the street, unable to go out without being shamed. Willow's passport was revoked, leaving her to hide and skulk about. During these days of fear and anxiety, afraid of being caught, she still found time to drink. Drunk, she came knocking at our door. Seeing David and her own son living so well without her, she was filled with resentment and jealousy. She begged, "David, it was my fault before. Can you please help me? I've already broken up with Makoto. I never even liked him. I only felt you didn't love me and care about me the way you used to. So I got together with him out of spite. I just wanted to make you angry." The next second, David slapped her hard across the face. With a cold laugh he said, "How pathetic can you be? Willow, look at yourself. Do you really think I could ever want you again? When you humiliated me with Makoto, did you ever think you'd end up like this? You deserve every bit of it. Go to prison." Ha ha ha. Willow broke down, crying hysterically. She sobbed, "What did I do wrong? I only loved you. I love you. Back in high school, we were so good together. How did it come to this? Why did it come to this? Please, David, give me another chance. I'm begging you. I'm begging you." Willow had truly gone mad. Her parents, dragged down by her, didn't help her at all. Instead, they immediately fled abroad with a huge chunk of the family fortune. Every day, she hid in dark corners, terrified of being found. The gangsters she had once dealt with tormented her beyond recognition. She finally escaped, only to see her ex-husband calling the police to send her to prison. That was when Willow truly snapped. She ran toward the villa's nearest driveway, eyes closed. A speeding car struck her, sending her flying. Her life ended in an instant, and the driver was Makoto. Makoto had gone mad as well. Because of his mental illness, he was sent to a psychiatric hospital and faced no legal punishment. But that was punishment in its own way. According to the bullet comments, his story still followed the original plot. He later fell ill, needing a kidney transplant, but had no money and no matching donor. All he could do was wait helplessly for death. Perhaps that was his retribution. Chapter 13. David's life was getting better and better. He said the villa was too big, and that it would only feel lively if I moved in with him. But I had a secret I never told him. The enormous debt, I made it up. I had made a deal with the King of Hell, trading all my savings in the underworld court for 6 months in the human world. After that, I would return to where I truly belonged. I didn't accept David's request. Instead, I brushed it off, saying, "I'll think about it." He thought I was just being abstract again and rolled his eyes skyward. He said, "Seriously, what are you putting on airs for? You think I'm begging you, George?" But the next morning, there was suddenly a 1 billion check on my bedside table. On the sticky note was written, "Is 1 billion enough to pay back the King of Hell? Stay here and enjoy riches and glory with me, George." I cried. Cried because David was such an idiot. Did this fool really think everything I said was true? I tossed off my blanket and felt something underneath. When I pulled it out, it was candy. Then I remembered, last night that little rascal Mario had asked me what flavor of candy I liked. His expression practically had "I'm secretly preparing you a surprise" written all over it. At the very last moment before I disappeared, a text arrived on my phone. It was from A. The message read, "George, I know it's you. I'm so happy you came back. Sigh, what can I say? Thank you too, Anna." Chapter 14. On a sticky note, I left David a message. "David, if you try to die again, I'll come beat you up in your dreams." The bullet comments grew sorrowful. One read, "George, my George, good people never get good endings. Woo woo." Another said, "My heart aches for my George." And another, "Don't feel sorry anymore. Who was it that burned paper money for George? Now George has become the richest man in the underworld court." Then one more popped up. "Yeah, we can still burn paper offerings. I'll burn 100,000. Brothers, can you keep up with me? Let's burn enough for George to be reborn for real." No one ever told me that bullet comments could also burn offerings for me. And this sports car, this cube of candy, these watches. Which bastard has so much free time?